son at the time who had those little boys that he would nurture in a special garden where he did give them alcohol and not hashish, and then they would wake up in paradise, then he'd take them out and say, okay, if you want to be in paradise all the time, you work for me, and he used them as mercenaries or whatever.
Wow. Now, I'd never heard that one at all, and actually, but it's lovely. You see, people can put in these things that might make for, until it's verified completely, a folk etymology and alternative, but I love it. I actually spoke to our Arabic lecturer, Pasquale, in our School of Languages, just to say to him, because I was interested with the etymology. I've got hashash. So I checked with Pasquale. I said it also gives us hashashin, and hashashin is the plural. So that's hashish eaters. And so the singular, so some of you might have said hashash, come to hashash, others hashashin, both are correct really. The story is the interesting one about this fanatic sect being sent out to murder the Christian leaders. And you know, how would you feel if somebody said, you have got to go and murder tonight? Oh, no, what can I do now? Where is that dope? I need to hide, so I don't mind if I am murdering anybody, you know. So, very interesting 12th, 13th century story there. Oh, no, you didn't read that. Okay, cobra, who's going to offer cobra? Oh, don't be so shy. Yes.
Latin, colubra, snake.
Good, it is Latin. Colubra snake. How many people got Portuguese? Okay, so this is also the interesting thing about lexicography. Dictionaries are made by humans, so not all dictionaries, if they're concise dictionaries, are going to go as far back. So Portuguese is going to be your first port of call, coming from Cobra de Capello. And did you find out who introduced that word about this hooded snake? Anybody? I think you're very shy, very shy. Vasco da Gama, this major adventurer around the world, when he stops in Portugal, he's confronted with this hooded snake. And so he gave it the name Cobra de Capello, the snake with a hood. The cobra, the word cobra, is a contraction from colubra. So, okay, I have to give it, if you said Portuguese, I'll say, okay, tick, right. Next one, khaki. Khaki. Anybody want to offer khaki? You know, our khaki clothes and colours? Yes. Yes, okay. Hindi. Anybody get anything else? Urdu. Okay. All of those are in the same language family. And so we're talking about dusty. So very clever for that climate to create clothing that hides the dust. You make it look as if it's dusty, so you kind of blend with it. So certainly coming from khak, which is Urdu or Persian dust. The next one, dollar. Oh, well, you know, our exchange rate we're battling against the dollar. So what did you find about the dollar? We always think it's American. Where does dollar come from? Yes?
From German, Dollar from Thaler, shortening of Joachim's Thaler, silver coin made in Bohemian Valley.
Brilliant. So this is actually part of a word. The Thaler is the silver coin coming from Joachim's Valley, where the mining was. And so we always assume it's an American thing. But actually, it started and was used in Spain and moved on into the North America, and it was only adopted as their currency in the late 18th century. So certainly, and now we've got dollars all over the world, people using that currency, and ours is still very weak against all of those, I'm afraid to say. Yep. Okay. The Dutch currency was the Rijksdalr. Yes.
Just buy a duck for $1.
Oh, wow.
It's a bit thick.
Lovely. Lastly, tycoon. All right, not too much here, but I've got a little bit of interest I wanted you to pick up on. Anybody? It's a straightforward one. That's it. Right. Good. Did anybody get Chinese? All right, so I put this in just because I wanted you to see that some dictionaries do not agree with each other on the ultimate etymology. That is just how it is. And the lexicographer's got the right to do that. So Japanese tycoon, great lord, or Chinese ta-kun, which is the great ruler. Okay, good. So I gave you some other homework for tonight. We're not there yet, but let's move on. All right, we were talking about the evolution of words, the vocabulary, interesting things. And we started out by looking at neologisms, where words are created either out of nothing, or we're going to have combinations of words. And I'm sure the question is going to come from you, when is a neologism no longer a neologism? But let's have a look. Words from literary sources. Obviously, we've seen it with Shakespeare. He was a great neologizer. And it still goes on today with our modern authors creating words for their characters in their books. But let's look at some words that you would not imagine were not always here. They just seem that they've always been here, but they were created. We first of all got Tolkien, who was born in Bloemfontein, by the way, yes, and he created in his stories The Hobbit. And we all kind of understand this hobbit, what it looks like, a little creature in your mind when you read it. There it is, a member of a race of imaginary creatures related to and resembling humans, living underground and characterized by their good nature, diminutive size, and hairy feet. He coined this word himself. We don't know why he thought hobbit, but it sounded good to him, and kind of just imagine a little hopping along. And he used it again in his trilogy, The Lord of the Rings. We look at other words. Thackeray, giving us Oxbridge. That was first used by him, the combination of Oxford and Cambridge. We look at William Wordsworth, giving us pedestrian. Dickens, giving us Butterfingers, doormat. Dr. Seuss, nerd. Okay. Now we just talk about, he's a computer nerd, or whatever, but he brought that in. Roald Dahl brought in gremlin. Well, today I can tell you about gremlins up here, but Roald Dahl was gremlin. He introduced many, many words. It was quite sad to know that his little daughter died, and then his wife had a stroke and couldn't speak very well, so he used to entertain her, and he said he had dyslexia, so he used to entertain her with all these funny words and mixing things back to front, and so, yeah. J.K. Rowling. Now, I'm just giving one example here, but of course she's great with her Harry Potter. She's a classicist herself, a classicist trained, so you will know if you read the Harry Potters that she is very, very on her game with her roots from Latin and Greek and using those for names. A muggle is a person with non-magical. So she invented that. And of course, they're advertising hugely at the moment these, what are they called, the fantastic creatures or something? And fantastic beasts, yeah. And she's given names to all of those. It's very, very creative. All right, so this is the thing I thought maybe you're going to say to me. When is a neologism no longer a neologism? I mean, when is a new word no longer a new word? We've accepted dog and jam long time ago. Number one, when it is accepted by the public in common usage, that people around understand it. You don't have to explain it. It may not yet be in the dictionary, but you would understand it, and it's going to be accepted. But, of course, when it's entered into the dictionary, it's no longer a neologism. It'll come into the dictionary maybe under slang, maybe under colloquialism, until such time they say, okay, we're keeping it, and we're going to give it a formal spin. It takes between 3 and 10 years to know whether a word is going to stay or not. Now, some of these neologisms I gave you, you say, I've never heard of those. But they have to have been in common usage around the world, enough that lexicographers find them in the data bank all the time that they would actually have currency, okay? Very interesting word that, okay, we're going to come to Google. I just wanted to mention that the word AIDS was discovered in 1981, and there was absolutely no way it was going to go away, and it was given the autoimmune syndrome or whatever, and they, the dictionaries all said, we're accepting this word. Within a year, it had entered the dictionary. Within a year, 1982, it entered the dictionary. Unprecedented for something. Although it's an acronym, never mind, it was entered the dictionary because acronyms also go into the dictionary. All right, I mentioned this Google. Fascinating. This is quite a story. The Google search engine. This was created by two Stanford academic young men, Larry Page and Sergey Brin, and they created this search engine. I think it was 1996, and they gave it a name. Okay, we know what search engines do. You're going to put in something, type in it, and it's got to go and look all over the place for you. It's amazing, all these things do. So they gave it a name, and the name they gave it was Backrub. Well, I mean, if I was going to look at a search engine that says Backrub, I'd expect massages. You know, where are the masseurs going to come? Where's my manicure and pedicure? No. So they just were wondering. It was not getting traction. So they had a little caucus, a little watty with all the young research assistants that were helping them. Said, okay, we've got to come up with something. Let's think about it. We want some word that reflects what this does. Okay, it's going to go to thousands upon thousands and thousands of websites and whatnot to search for information. So it was actually Larry Page himself who said, you know, the aha moment, I've got it. We should call it Google. All right. Now, I'm sure I've got mathematicians here. Who's a mathematician here? Can you tell me about Google? Yes. What is Google?
10 to the power of 100.
Correct. It is a mathematics. Do you know the story? Okay. Oh, okay. So it's a mathematical symbol, Google, spelled differently, and a professor, Edward Kasner, in the 1930s, he was tired of saying to his students, now look, I want you to write 10 to the power of 100, 10 to the power, you know, as a maths person, let's get a shortcut. It's like people understand the symbol pi, you know, let's just do something like that. And so he said to his young nephew, 9 years old, he says, listen, if you can come up with a name, a word that represents this, and I like it, I'll get my students to use it. And indeed, the little boy said, I've got it, Google. Meant absolutely nothing. This little boy, out of his head, just Google. He said, I like it. And he started using it, and it is now totally used everywhere. Now it's Googleplex and all sorts of other things as well attached to that. So now, he's very excited. Larry Page and his buddy and the research people, great. So they called one of the research chaps. His name was Sean Anderson, young fella. So listen, Sean, you know what it's like. Eh? We've got to now have the domain name registered. So nobody else can ever touch that name. So go and register it. Okay, Sean? He says, yeah, I will. Off he goes, very excited. He comes back. He says, it's registered. Excepting he'd misspelled it. It wasn't the mathematical one. He spelt it. Oh, I'm going to Google this. Okay, Googling. Kind of got some overlap, Googling. But anyway. So misspelled it, and it stuck, because you're not going to go and do that process all over again. It's an interesting word. We're going to come a little bit later to this, so maybe if I forget to mention it again, it is a very interesting word because it is an example of a word that is generalized in meaning. If I say to you, go to the World Wide Web to find this information, invariably people are going to say, okay, I'll Google it. They don't necessarily mean Google it. They might use Yahoo. They might use another search engine. But this word has become so general, we just equate it with, I'm going to search the World Wide Web. Okay. But we'll talk about that a little bit later. So this Google was added to the dictionary in 2006, and very closely behind that, it became converted to a verb, to Google, and they accepted that as well. We're going to talk about conversions in a moment. Language of advertising and journalism. These journalists, advertisers in these advertising agencies are very creative people. They get tasked by somebody, we've got this new product and we want a name for it, you know, like Edward Kasner with the Google story. We want a name for it. And some of these names have become gained such currency that they are no longer seen as trademarks, that they're used in everyday speak. So Xerox, when that machine, which is going to be your photocopying machine, it's the old days. In my old days, I can remember, you know, you're going to photocopy something, you put ink and it's very messy and you photocopy like that. Then along comes this amazing machine and it's dry. Xerox in Greek is dry. So the person said, well, we'll call it the Xerox machine because it's dry. It's not that messy thing. Kodak. No idea why, how, what. It means nothing other than it was a trademark for a camera. But again, we talk about, oh, that's a really Kodak moment. You know, it's a moment to be photographed. You're taking it in a general sense. Kleenex, quite a clever one, just a play with words here, a play with spelling, cleaning, and the X gives it kind of a sexy thing. Looks better to clean your nose. But people say, have you got a Kleenex with you? Yeah, sure I have. I've got Pick and Pay no-name brand. Kindle, lovely name for the electronic reader because it is lighting your fire, it's kindling your excitement about a book. Android, the Android devices, this is from Greek. Aner andros means a man, and oid, anything with an oid means in the shape of. So this device, smartphone type device, is so clever, it's like a human being, okay? It's like a person. So ladies, it's a little bit, you know, giving the man, not the woman, because actually this means physically a man versus gyne. Gynekos is woman. So they could have said gynecoid. Eh? Then we've got Band-Aid. Do you want a plaster? You've got a sore. People often say, I've got a Band-Aid. Again, it's Pick and Pay no-name brand, maybe. No, it doesn't matter. Tupperware, also a brand name. So you want to go and buy some plastic reception boxes, you'll say, have you got any Tupperwares in your house? You just mean plastic receptors now. Though Tupperware, they wouldn't like to hear that really. Slang, we wait and see whether these slang words stay. These are usually conversational things. You should not be writing them down, you know, in letters and things. But cool, gizmo, zit, hang out, chilling, all of these, we don't know the etymologies. They are neologisms that have been brought in for slang. So let's look at new words. And of course, I'm showing you how many thousands and sometimes more get added into the dictionaries. But what is interesting is when you look at the new words that come into a dictionary in a particular year, they reflect what is going on in society, in culture, in politics sometimes. So if we look at 2003, the Collins Dictionary, look how many they were adding in, 5,500 words. Bling bling, Botox, Viagra. So we're all about how do I look, okay? How do I perform, okay? It's all those things. And even now, in the latest dictionaries, the bling bling has got the entry now of just bling because they're just using bling. So again, it changes, you see. 2005, American Heritage Dictionary added 10,000 new words. Well, of course America would, wouldn't it? And you've got a reflection here of what's going on. Domain names, so the power of the computer, bringing in that phrase. Skyboarding, which is a new type of sport, let's invent something. Buyback, the notion that, people are battling a little bit with their finances, so they can go and almost pawn things and then buy them back. 2009-2010, Oxford English Dictionary, 2,000 new words. They are not so bravo, let's just keep adding. 2,000, much less than the others. But again, what are they saying here? Netbook, we're still talking about developments in technology. Staycation, a bit of a problem, financial. People are having hard times. It's a stay-at-home vacation. I'm taking my vacation, but I'm going to stay at home, so staycation. Social media, unfriend, okay? And then jeggings just telling you about the clothing of the time. Oxford Word of the Year in 2012 was omnishambles. This, those Latinists will know omni means all, okay? So everything is a mess. Everything is a shambles. It was a word that came into a sitcom, a sort of a comedy show in Britain, but that show was kind of playing at and harking at the mess in the government and whatever. They would make these little barbed comments. Now, quite an interesting thing. This is the Oxford Word of the Year, 2012. It is an entry in the Oxford online dictionary, but they have dropped it out of the OED. They say it's no longer, it hasn't got currency, it's out. All right, so that one, very short-lived thing. 2013, let's have a look what happens here. Word of the year is selfie. So what is that telling you? It's all about me, myself, and I, and taking photos, social media, uploading. That's what's happening at the time. Then we're looking at other contender. I've taken one of the contenders out. I'll tell you who the other one is, but the very strong contender was hashtag. Now, we see this all over the place, this hashtag, particularly GCT, hashtag. Hashtag has always been a symbol on the keyboard or on your phone. It's a hashtag. It didn't even have a spelling, a name. You just say, when you press this on your phone, after you've said what you said, please press the hashtag key. It was a key. But now it precedes words which you would go searching for. It's the sort of equivalent of where you've got the @ sign for your email, Gail.Symington @UCT. You need that hashtag blah, 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 to use this Twitter and Twitter feed and whatnot. So, we have, of course...
Could I say, add this?
Of course.
There's an old printer's sign known as an octothorpe.
Right. This is the same as hashtag.
Yeah, it's the word. Americans
That one.
call it a hashtag.
Okay. An
Octothorpe.
I'm counting now, eh? 1, 2, 3. Yeah, I guess so, eh? We can make it Octothorpe. Thank you. So, oh yes, well, we know about this, eh? Roads must fall. Why do they have hashtag roads must fall on most of their things? Not on that one, but it was hashtag roads must fall because the protesters wanted to have people following them on Twitter, etc., and it was hashtag fees must fall as well. I'll tell you a funny story though. My daughter, the third one, not one of those other two, she lives in Cape Town, and she's a journalist, and so she works in an office with other people, and she says, you know, Mum, this hashtag thing gets on my nerves. So I said, why? She said, well, there's this guy in the office. He precedes everything with hashtag. Hashtag, I'm going to get coffee. Hashtag, you look lovely in that. Hashtag, she said, you know, totally misused, but it's become like a popular thing. You look at some people on, my niece, who's overseas at the moment, send me a thing saying, hashtag, I'm so happy. What? It's not even Twittering. I mean, Anyway, we have to accept these kind of changes, but yeah. 2014, the word of the year was vape, so telling you about a real sort of drive, anti-smoking. And so that's also created a conversion to vape, and there are vaping rooms now. And this is weird. The other contender is Bay. Never, no. My students know that. Yes, she's my bae. I think it's a contraction of babe or something. I said, well, I'm not going to go home to my husband and say, oh, you are my bae tonight. No. B-O-O. He's my boo. He's my boo. What is that short for? Okay, right. We have to love new words. So now we look at 2015. This was very controversial. It was the word of the year of Oxford, and it's the pictograph, the emoji. The e means picture, emoji means letter or character. And why it was controversial is this is what it is. There are so many emojis. It's this crying with laughter emoji. How are they going to enter that into the dictionary? Are they going to put it picture next to the E, the emoji, because it doesn't include the other emojis, you see. So it was very controversial, but it remains as their word of the year. All right, 2016 word of the year. Post-truth. Which is very sad. Oh, who's the gentleman who told me he's thought of a wonderful thing? You know, instead of saying, I said, we are now in the modern English era. Instead of saying modern English, I said we should have said ultra-modern or something. No, he had a brilliant one. He said postmodern. Okay, we're in the postmodern English era. All right, post-truth. Look at this. What is this saying about our society at the moment? Objective truth is less relevant than appeals to emotion or belief. The truth doesn't really matter. It's just that you get people to vote for you or be on your side.
How would they choose the word of the year?
Oh, wow. It is a huge process. Let me tell you now, if you want to go on the website of the OED and look up word of the year, it'll probably tell you. It does tell you. But it's got to go. They look at the data bank, they look at how many citations that this has had. People have to say, I saw this there, I went on the web and I saw it there, and you've got to have those citations. And then the editors will decide. They'll come down to the best ones, the most common or whatever. But this is the Global Language Monitor, the American one. This is to get their word of the year, which is the really weird 2.0. Not even a word in my view. But anyway, 3 criteria. It must be found globally. It must have a minimum of 25,000 citations. It must have wide usage, that is, appearing in various forms of media and have breadth of usage, not limited to a particular professional or social group. It analyzes, the GLM, the Global Language Monitor, analyzes the internet, the blogosphere, the top 275,000 print and electronic media, plus new social media sources as they emerge. To get to that, it's a huge process. So there was obviously a lot of talk about this post-truth. We know that 2016 has been a very turbulent year politically, particularly in America. So let's look at the contenders. Alt-right, which is short for alternative right. An ideological grouping associated with extreme conservative or reactionary viewpoints, characterized by a rejection of mainstream politics and by the use of online media to disseminate deliberately controversial content. So to be more right than right type of thing. And of course, today, what do we get? Alternative facts. Did you hear that? So I'm thinking about the alt-right, alternative right now. There's this big hoo-ha about President Trump had far fewer people attending his inauguration compared to when Obama was inaugurated. And they show pictures. So the press secretary came out last night. Trump's press secretary says, now I'm going to give the alternative facts. I mean, a fact is a fact. So, but now we're going to play with the facts, like the alternative right. So, oxymoron, eh? South African words, we were talking about those. So the last time they came in was 2015. They added these ones. Mahala, free of charge. Tenderpreneur. Also an indictment upon our society and our politics. It's a blend using entrepreneur and the tender system. A person in government who abuses his or her political power and influence to secure government tenders and contracts. I mean, we see it all the time, don't we? Wunga. Well, I'm sure none of you know about Wunga. I don't know about Wunga, but it's a street drug. But it's got currency amongst the street, the people, the drug addicts, etc. And then this one, Zeph. Common, trashy, an abbreviation of Zephyr motorcar, associated with the white working class South Africans. Well, I don't know. I'd never heard of those, but they had enough that was sent and put into the databases, enough for people to say, we're going to include them. All right, let's look at compounding, other ways in which words enter English. 2 words can be either joined together, hyphenated, or stand side by side, Neither word loses a portion. Many of you will say, but do I need a hyphen here? Have you ever questioned yourself, I wonder if it's a hyphen or not a hyphen? Hyphens are sort of becoming less, I shouldn't say fashionable, but the punctuation is being more simplified, so it's really kind of your choice whether you're going to hyphenate or not. We look at boyfriend. Now, if I say there's a boy and there's a friend, okay, two different things. But if I say to this young lady, is he your boyfriend? No, he's not my boyfriend, but I think he's his boy. Yeah, you know. So it takes on a different meaning. Facebook, lovely, clever name of Zuckerberg to come up with, where you're seeing people on this social network. Upmarket, prime time TV. We take prime separately, prime numbers, etc., etc. It means very different thing, but put them together. Prime time TV, very, very big. Spreadsheets. This is, of course, talking about bringing in more about technologies and computers. Laptop. Digital detox, that goes to tell you. Digital detox, people so consumed with social media and computing that they actually have to go into like a facility. We're not letting you have any of that. You've got to detox from all of this. Upload and download. Then we look at blends. Fancy, lovely name. I love the name, portmanteau words. Portmanteau is really a suitcase with compartments. So it really, for me, I can visualize this. When I close the suitcase, it's one thing. But when you open it, it's two things. So a blend is different from a compound. And it's different because I'm still going to be creating a new word combining two words, but either one or both loses a portion. So a blend, you're losing a portion. So we had tenderpreneur. That was an example of a blend. Tendering and entrepreneur. Look at some examples. Emoticon. That's from emotion icon. Okay? You've got some and an emoticon is different from an emoji. You know the difference? Okay. The emoticon you have to create using your keys on your keyboard. So you can make a smiley face, using your colon and this and that. But an emoji was created by the Japanese, and there are many. They reflect emotions as well. Metrosexual, from metro and heterosexual, homosexual, whatever. A metrosexual is really an upmarket, very smooth dressing person. Guesstimate. Can you just give me a guesstimate? How much are you going to charge me for this? I don't know. Give me a guesstimate so I know whether I'm going to accept. Breathalyzer from breath analyzer. Simulcast from simultaneous broadcast. Now we're changing. We're adding more, saying it's a sportscast. It's sports broadcast. So sportscaster. Chillax. That's chill and relax. Staycation, I've already mentioned, is stay-at-home vacation. Docudrama is a documentary drama, so much more embedded in real stuff. Malware, we hate this stuff. Malware is malicious software, where the virus gets put into your computer and is just an awful thing to try and get rid of. Malicious software. Right, for a little story. Yeah.
I'm using it starting with
neologism. Mm-hmm. That's one.
But now, so then the pedestrian, when you have words and all that, that's also neologism, but I mean, pedestrian can very definitely be taken back to...
All the way back to Latin. Yeah. He brought it in. So let's go back to Shakespeare because of the examples I'd given you. An example that I gave you was assassination. Okay? Yeah, assassination. Assassin existed. All right? So, but we still call that assassination a neologism because he created it. He made a different noun out of that noun. Because a neologism is not simply, or you're using words in new ways. We're going to come to conversions, which is in itself a form of a neologistic way of dealing with words. You can have words side by side, but you're creating them in a new capacity. Digital detox. You could tell me that that's a neologism, yeah. But it's now accepted. It's in the dictionary. It's not a neologism anymore. But when it comes in, so Wordsworth with pedestrian was the first to use that word, although it comes, we could figure it out, it comes from the Latin pes pedis, meaning foot, but he said that guy going by foot is a pedestrian. All right, so it was a neologism then, no longer anymore. All right, who's watching the Australian Open? Okay, my man Federer, he's still in, I hope. Okay, yes. Okay. So this is just a little side thing. This is not using an English blend, but just to show you, have you ever wondered why in tennis, if you get 0, it's 15 love, 30 love, 40 love? Has it got anything love to do with it? No, they are on opposite sides. They hate each other for the day, you know. They want to win. So it's nothing about the word love, but what it comes from is leuf, the word egg, which resembles the 0. And so you would say, love is the anglicized blend of leuf, as the shape of the egg was often associated with a 0. Now, when you watch the French Open, what do they say, the umpires? 15-0. They don't use it at all. But we know there's always this kind of thing about the French versus the English, so they do their own thing. They do not use that. For cricketers, if you go out for a duck, does that have anything to do with quack, quack, quack? Not at all. It's short for out for a duck's egg. 0. Out for a duck's egg. So it's again about the notion of that shape, just using the shape. Okay. All right, we look at acronyms now. Ooh, we are living in a mad epidemic of acronyms. Everyone's on acronyms. You know, every committee that you're on is referred to by an acronym, and sometimes I'm wondering, what committee is that again? What is it? I'm going to this meeting. PRESA. What does it stand for again? You know, yeah. So acronyms, people love acronyms. But we need to distinguish between an acronym and an initialism. And many people do not. All right, there is a distinct difference. Many people do not. Funnily enough, I went on to Googling, and I was just looking up acronyms, thinking, I'll show you some interesting acronyms. They were mixing up these two things completely. So do not always believe your websites, okay? You can believe Professor Webb, but not websites. Okay, acros means top of. Anima is name. So it is the top name or letter of a series of words. You put them together. It can also be the top couple of letters, the top sounds. You put them together, and they must sound like a realistic word. They must sound, they're not, but they must sound like a word. You must be able to say them as a word. So there we go. This is quite funny. It's not a very good one, but you're going to critique it for me, I hope. I can't believe it. Look at this news headline. The future of Zimbabwe could rest with the SABC. The SABC. Oh, you need glasses, Mom. That's the SADC, Southern African Development Community. That's the trouble with this country. Everything's a bleep, bleep, bleep acronym. Calm down, Mom. Eve, get her something. I'll have a G&T. ASAP? All right. What is wrong with that? What is wrong with that? None of them are acronyms, except maybe ASAP. If you say ASAP instead of ASAP, then it's an acronym. So this is incorrect. Well, anyway, but it's quite fun. So it's formed by taking the first letter or the first sound of several words, but it must sound like a veritable word. Okay. It's never punctuated. Okay, never punctuated. Sounds like a word. And we get, for example, AIDS, all right? And you would have to capitalize the A. You're either going to use all the capitals or you're going to capitalize the first one because you would get confused with he aids and abets somebody. NATO, North Atlantic Treaty Organization. Now it means North Atlantic Treaty Organization. You don't say NATO means blah, swim or something, okay? Right? It's a representation. CAT scan. Much easier to say the person has to have a CAT scan, computerized axial tomography scan. It's much more difficult. I'm going to have a computerized axial tomography scan. No, I'm going for a CAT scan. Nothing to do with cats either. MOOCs, very popular now. MOOCs is massive online open courses, which if you're interested, that of course UCT has now started some MOOCs. They are, I believe they are free. They're free. You can do MOOCs from all over the world. Harvard, I think Harvard and Stanford started them, and you can do a course. And it's not going to mean exams or anything like that. And I'm not sure. Some of them might, but you can't get credit. Certainly not towards your UCT degree with a MOOC here. But you can learn lots of interesting things. YOLO. That's the youngsters saying YOLO. They don't say YOLO. They say YOLO. You only live once. That's now been extended to FOLO, fear of living offline. So you need a digital detox. And then FOMO, fear of missing out. And I'm including this one. I would have said LOL as an initialism, but people are saying LOL because I think it means laugh out loud. I thought it meant lots of love. Well, why? I will remember forever that it means laugh out loud, because there was a letter to the editor. It was kind of an amusing thing saying, I felt terrible. So-and-so father died, so I wrote a letter of condolences. And at the bottom, it was such a lovely person, LOL. Laugh. What you meant is lots of love, but it came out, laugh out loud, thanks a lot. Then we're looking at where you can have acronyms that have become so commonplace that they are all in lowercase letters, okay? And they are now fully accepted as a word, that some of these you may not even realize actually are acronyms. We're looking at SCUBA. I'm going to go scuba diving. That's self-contained underwater breathing apparatus. Radar, we just know, that we need radar if you're going to go on the airplane, that radar stuff. Radio detecting and ranging. Sonar, sound navigation and ranging. Your laser will be another one. I'm going to go for laser treatment, light amplification, sound emission rays or something like that. Yeah. Okay, so abbreviations. Now I'm making the distinction. I'm not including acronyms in this, all right? Acronym, we've got to sound like a word. Okay, got to sound like a word. There are two types of abbreviations. In Latin, the word brevis means short, so there are two ways we can shorten a word. And the one is, of course, to use the initials. These are called an initialism. And that is exactly what it does. You pronounce each word, each initial, each letter, you pronounce those. In the old days, there was a lot of full stops. I'm going to listen to the B, full stop, B, full stop, C, full stop, okay? Where the full stop was always indicative of an abbreviation. That's why they were used. But those have fallen out of favor, really. We tend to use less of those. So we've got here, it does not pronounce as a single word. That's the big difference. You start coming to summer school at UCT. You're not coming to summer school at ACT. Strangely, a person, you can reflect, you can talk about AIDS, but we don't talk about HIV. It's just, the English language is just, it's a marvelous thing, but it's weird. So it's HIV. We talk about WWW, RSVP, or it's French, of course, répondez s'il vous plaît, but it is initials. DJ, disc jockey. I'm not going to be visiting USA, I visit the USA. Short messaging service is shortened to SMS. USB, universal serial bus. Okay, it's that there. Park it there. There it is. Then I've put a little asterisk here for these very young initialisms that have become so current that Oxford Dictionary included them in 2010. OMG and FYI. So again, we're not looking at using these things in standard English writing where you're going to be doing an essay or writing a formal letter. You're not going to be using the FYI and the OMG, but youngsters or even yourself may use it as an expletive form.
What is FYI?
for your information. Okay. I don't blame you. These things we are inundated with this Twitter type of stuff. This is where you're going to find all these FYIs, the lols and all of that, when people are having a lovely time together. Yes. Having a coffee. Yes. Look, they're all looking at their cell phones, wanting to see, has anybody sent me a message? They're not worried about the rest of the people. They're all checking. Getting together in a restaurant. Such fun. I find it weird that they call this social media. There's nothing social about it. Enjoying the beauty in a museum. Pleasantly chatting in a cafe. Enjoying a day at the beach. At the stadium watching the team. Having fun with the girlfriend. So, Einstein, what did he say? I fear the day when technology overlaps with our humanity. We don't want that to ever happen. There's a place, of course, for our technologies, but we mustn't forget the word social. The second type of abbreviation is a clipping, which is where you shorten something by clipping off something from the beginning or something from the end. Very common ones, you will know these here. Gym, short for gymnasium. I'm going to the gym. Pub, what's that short for? Public house. I'm going to the. I'll tell you, if you ask the teenagers and the students, what's pub short for? They won't know. Public house. Phone for telephone. Prof, professor. Ad for advertisement. Demo for demonstration. Math or maths for mathematics. Lab for laboratory. Exam, examination. App for application. That's very, very, of course, current now. Tab for tabulator. Wi-Fi is not a clipping. People have put it forward as being wireless fidelity, as in high fidelity, but it has been disputed. That is not how it is. It's like a trademark. They just came up with this. Of course, it's got to do with wireless, though. It has to do with wireless. Some have become accepted as formal words. Taxi comes from taximeter, cabriolet, actually. Cab comes from cabriolet. Fan for fanatic. Bus, this is a weird one for me, because of those who have studied Latin will know that omnibus is the dative or ablative plural of the adjective omnis. It is not, the bus is not a standalone part. It's a morpheme. It's got to be attached to something else. But, you know, it's become so common now. We say, I'm going by microbus, minibus, the minibus taxis, the jammy shuttle bus. So we've just extracted an ending and we've used it to create new words. This is something that I'm going to show you that's really interesting we've done before. I want to jump to what we've done before. But conversion's easy. We'll just go quickly through conversion. It's also called a back formation, which is where I create a new grammatical function for an existing word. So where we'd say, impact, now that only came in as a noun, now it's to impact. We've even made adjective impactful, all right? We can add these things all the time. Television, to televise. Bartender, we say to bartend. Escalator, only came in as a noun. Now we talk about things going higher. They never come lower. An escalator goes up and down, but escalating is always up. Scala, in Latin, is a stair. So it was a clever word. It was a trademark name originally, actually. Google, we say to Google. And then email, electronic mail, it's to email. I'll email you in the morning. To SMS. To Facebook. To text, I will text you. To Twitter, to tweet. So these are conversions using different grammatical formations. We can take some, I'm just trying to think examples, verbs, and put them down as nouns, but I'm just trying to think of an example. I'll think of something. Okay. All right. Eponyms. I'll come back to that other thing I wanted to tell you. It's going to be there. Eponyms. Epi means after, onima is name, all right? So this is a word that is created, named after a person, all right? So, Bushism. We know George Bush. What is he famous for? All right, let's see. He says, I know how hard it is for you to put food on your family. Our enemies are innovative and resourceful, and so are we. They never stop thinking about new ways to harm our country and our people, and neither do we.
Words matter.
Now, let's see if I've got sound.
The most memorable ones are etched in marble.
Oh, wait. Let me just stop this and call. Shall I call plaintively for Marshall? Martian? Okay. Let's see.
Because Mr. Spooner was even more famous than Mr.
Mr.
Bush.
Spooner. Does anybody want to go and see if Marshall is standing outside? Because found? No. He's coming. No. All right. Yes.
There was this judge, I forget his name, judge, and he had bushes. And he said, I've been all over the bulb.
Yes. I'll put Bush's statements back on. Okay. I know how hard it is for you to put food on your family. He is very funny. You can Google Bushism. Just put in Bushism. Oh, YouTube Bushism, and they'll give you there are so many instances of stupid sayings. All right. Well, maybe I'll come back to it if we find Marshall, or I'll show it to you tomorrow. How about that? If we'll just continue. Yeah.
I heard in one of the lectures that Trump said, our objective is to unify all the people and the rest don't matter.
Oh dear. All right. So, talking about politicians. Okay. So I need the sound.
Sure.
I love these technicians.
The most memorable ones are etched in marble, but with rules in English as rigid as a marshmallow.
Can I just go out of your slideshow for just a moment?
You do whatever you need to do, as long as I don't have to do it. See, in this modern era, post-modern era, what would we do without these technicians, wonderful computer people? If you can't, I can come on with it tomorrow.
Okay.
Can you put it back onto? Okay, it's on the slide. So go to the next slide.
I'm just going to...
Words matter. They define who we are. The most memorable ones are etched in marble. But with rules in English as rigid as a marshmallow, anyone is free to invent a new word. Just look at politicians. They make it up as they go along. Words, I mean.
I will put Medicare and Social Security in a lockbox.
Helping states and local governments with shovel-ready projects.
Some experiment with language so much, they invent non-words.
I think they misunderestimated the will and determination of the commander-in-chief, too.
Misunderestimated.
On the whole, more
okay. That's great. Okay. Thank you. So just to show you a little bit with Bush himself, but you can go online and have a look. This one, Sarah Palin. She phones the White House. Hi, this is Governor Sarah Palin. Is Senator Lieberman in? Not today, Governor. This is Rosh Hashanah. Well, hello, Rosh. Can I leave a message? I'll give you a little taste of who we're going to look at tomorrow. Chauvinism, named after a fellow called Nicolas Chauvin. We know all about that word and we accept it. Did you know it came named after a person? Boycott, after Captain Charles Boycott. Gerrymander, landing ourselves in political hot waters here. This was named after Governor Jerry Elbridge Gerry and Salamander. We're looking at Pyrrhic victory tomorrow. Academic. Here we are in academe. Where did that word come from? Draconian. So we'll look at that tomorrow. Okay. Any questions? Yes.
What would be the origin of the word oxymoron?
Oxymoron. Oxys means sharp and moros means dull. So it means when you're going to put two opposing things, opposite things, yet strangely they can make sense. Okay. So an oxymoron, bittersweet. We say they had a bittersweet relationship. If you look at them separately, it doesn't seem possible. But
Alfred Edison first used in Elaine and Lancelot in about 1795.
there, that is a mine of information. Lord Tennyson was the first to use oxymoron. We're going to, I don't know, I'm hoping we'll have a chance to look at oxymorons because there are some amazing ones. But anyway, we'll continue tomorrow. Any other questions? Yes? Wiktionary. Put together as a worldwide web Wiktionary. Yeah, I've got to be careful of Wikipedia too, yes. Okay, thank you. All right, everybody, I'll see you tomorrow. Coming from Cobra de Capello. And did you find out who introduced that word about this hooded snake? Anybody? Very shy, very shy. Vasco da Gama, this major adventurer around the world, when he stops in Portugal, he's confronted with this hooded snake. And so he gave it the name Cobra de Capello, the snake with a hood. The cobra, the word cobra, is a contraction from colubra. So, okay, I have to give it, if you said Portuguese, I'll say, okay, tick, right. Next one, khaki. Khaki. Anybody want to offer khaki? You know, our khaki clothes and colours? Yes. Yes, okay. Hindi. Anybody get anything else? Urdu. Okay. All of those are in the same language family. And so we're talking about dusty. So very clever for that climate to create clothing that hides the dust. You make it look as if it's dusty, so you kind of blend with it. So certainly coming from khak, which is Urdu or Persian dust. The next one, dollar. Oh, well, you know, our exchange rate we're battling against the dollar. So what did you find about the dollar? We always think it's American. Where does dollar come from? Yes?
From German, Dollar from Thaler, shortening of Joachim's Thaler, silver coin made in Bohemian Valley.
Brilliant, brilliant. So this is actually part of a word. The Thaler is the silver coin coming from Joachim's Valley, where the mining was. And so we always assume it's an American thing. But actually, it started and was used in Spain and moved on into the North America and was only adopted as their currency in the late 18th century. So certainly, and now we've got dollars all over the world, people using that currency. And ours is still very weak against all of those, I'm afraid to say. Yep. Okay.
Dutch currency was the Rijksdalr.
Rijksdalr. Yes, yes.
Just buy a duck for $1.
Oh, wow.
That's a bit thick.
Lovely. Lastly, tycoon. All right, not too much here, but I've got a little bit of interest I wanted you to pick up on. Anybody? It's a straightforward one. That's it. That's it. Right. Good. Did anybody get Chinese? All right. So this is, I put this in just because I wanted you to see that some dictionaries do not agree with each other on the ultimate etymology. That is just how it is. And the lexicographer's got the right to do that. So Japanese tycoon, great lord, or Chinese ta-kun, which is the great ruler. Okay, good. So I gave you some other homework for tonight. We're not there yet, but let's move on. All right, we were talking about the evolution of words, the vocabulary, interesting things. And we started out by looking at neologisms, where words are created either out of nothing, or we're going to have combinations of words. And I'm sure the question is going to come from you, when is a neologism no longer a neologism? But let's have a look. Words from literary sources. There's obviously, we've seen it with Shakespeare. He was a great neologizer, and it still goes on today with our modern authors creating words for their characters in their books. But let's look at some words that you would not imagine were not always here. They just seem that they've always been here, but they were created. We first of all got Tolkien, who was born in Bloemfontein, by the way, yes, and he created in his stories The Hobbit. And we all kind of understand this hobbit, what it looks like, a little creature in your mind when you read it. There it is, a member of a race of imaginary creatures related to and resembling humans, living underground and characterized by their good nature, diminutive size, and hairy feet. He coined this word himself. We don't know why he thought hobbit, but it sounded good to him, and kind of just imagine a little hopping along. And he used it again in his trilogy, The Lord of the Rings. We look at other words. Thackeray, giving us Oxbridge. That was first used by him, the combination of Oxford and Cambridge. We look at William Wordsworth, giving us pedestrian. Dickens, giving us butterfingers, doormat. Dr. Seuss, nerd. Okay. Now we just talk about, he's a computer nerd, or whatever, but he brought that in. Roald Dahl brought in gremlin. Well, today I can tell you about gremlins up here, but Roald Dahl was gremlin. He introduced many, many words. It was quite sad to know that his little daughter died, and then his wife had a stroke and couldn't speak very well, so he used to entertain her, and he said he had dyslexia, so he used to entertain her with all these funny words and mixing things back to front, and so, yeah. J.K. Rowling. Now, I'm just giving one example here, but of course she's great with her Harry Potter. She's a classicist herself, a classicist trained, so you will know if you read the Harry Potters that she is very, very on her game with her roots from Latin and Greek and using those for names. A muggle is a person with non-magical, so she invented that. And of course, they're advertising hugely at the moment these, what are they called, the fantastic creatures or something? And fantastic beasts, yeah. And she's given names to all of those. It's very, very creative. All right, so this is the thing I thought maybe you're going to say to me. When is a neologism no longer a neologism? I mean, when is a new word no longer a new word? We've accepted dog and jam long time ago. Number one, when it is accepted by the public in common usage, that people around understand it. You don't have to explain it. It may not yet be in the dictionary, but you would understand it, and it's going to be accepted. But, of course, when it's entered into the dictionary, it's no longer a neologism. It'll come into the dictionary maybe under slang, maybe under colloquialism, until such time they say, okay, we're keeping it, and we're going to give it a formal spin. It takes between 3 and 10 years to know whether a word is going to stay or not. Now, some of these neologisms I gave you, you say, I've never heard of those. But they have to have been in common usage around the world, that enough that lexicographers find them in the data bank all the time that they would actually have currency. Okay? Very interesting word that, okay, we're going to come to Google. I just wanted to mention that the word AIDS was discovered in 1981, and there was absolutely no way it was going to go away, and it was given the autoimmune syndrome or whatever, and they, the dictionaries.
Son, at the time, who had those little boys that he would nurture in a special garden where he did give them alcohol and not hashish, and then they would wake up in paradise, and he'd take them out and say, okay, if you want to be in paradise all the time, you work for me, and he used them as mercenaries or whatever.
Wow. Now, I'd never heard that one at all, and actually, but it's lovely. You see, people can put in these things that might make for, until it's verified completely, a folk etymology and alternative, but I love it. I actually spoke to our Arabic lecturer, Pasquale, in our School of Languages, just to say to him, because I was interested with the etymology. I've got hashash. So I checked with Pasquale. I said it also gives us hashashin, and hashashin is the plural. So that's hashish eaters. And so the singular, so some of you might have said hashash, come to hashash, others hashashin, both are correct really. The story is the interesting one about this fanatic sect being sent out to murder the Christian leaders. And, you know, how would you feel if somebody said, you have got to go and murder tonight? Oh, no, what can I do now? Where is that dope? I need to get high, so I don't mind if I am murdering anybody, you know. So, very interesting 12th, 13th century story there. Oh, no, you didn't read that. Okay, cobra, who's going to offer cobra? Oh, don't be so shy. Yes.
Latin, colubra, snake.
Good, it is Latin. Colubra snake. How many people got Portuguese? Okay, so this is also the interesting thing about lexicography. Dictionaries are made by humans, so not all dictionaries, if they're concise dictionaries, are going to go as far back. So Portuguese is going to be your first port of call.